You walk with me through fire and through flame. You walk with me upon the crashing waves.
So, welcome to Audacious Worship, and those of you who've been watching for the last few weeks, we've been interviewing a different worship leader, songwriter from amongst our friends, and today we've got the wonderful Ryan Gilpin, who is joining us all the way from Australia. Hey, Ryan.
Hello. Hey, guys. Nice to see you, kind of.
So thanks for having a chat, joining the worship conversation, Ryan.
It's been a long time. So good to see you.
It has, yeah. And we were just saying how many years it has actually been. And so I feel like personally there's a lot to catch up on anyway. So I've got a few things I want to ask anyway. But just explain a little bit about what you're up to right now, what your day to day is like, just for all the people watching.
Yeah, cool. Well, firstly, like for people who don't know, I'm from England, like originally, and my parents run a church in Sheffield, just close to Manchester, and sort of like obviously I grew up with Audacious and like used to play in the band.
Yes.
And I remember someone was reminding me the other day that when I started off playing percussion, and I had this T-shirt which said "I'm in the band," and I used to love wearing it. But but anyway, when it was a few years ago, maybe like I think it was 7 years ago, I moved to Australia and started a new life here. Kind of studied a little bit again, and but now I work for C3 College, which is a creative arts college, and we teach worship leading and songwriting and lots more than that, like this acting, film, and it's a Bible college as well. So I kind of teach in that, and then writing for my own worship project that I started last year, etc. Living life to the full.
Very cool. So we'll get on to a bit more of that, but what first, like, can you remember the first point where you got interested in music? Like what first inspired you to want to be a musician?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a bit embarrassing, to be honest, Matt, but I remember my first musical inspirations was actually from Michael Flatley. So when I was a kid,
do a bit of river dance now, mate.
No, I can't do it anymore, but I used to do it. And so when I was like probably 4 or 5, I saw the videos of like Lord of the Dance and stuff, and like the Irish music, I was just like completely like, wow, like something about the heart and soul of it. It just like moved me so much. And I also was like so like respectful of someone who, like Michael Flatley, was so good at his craft as a dancer, and kind of then used his leadership and created these huge like productions, and that was like super cool to me. So that was probably the embarrassing start of it. That definitely got me into music, like overall. And then from then onwards, I was very hyperactive as a kid. I don't know if you remember me, how I was as a teenager. Maybe I've mellowed out by that point. But I was quite hyperactive, and I remember a teacher coming around once to home and saying, "We really want to send Ryan to a special needs school because he doesn't concentrate in class. Like he's always daydreaming." And all I was daydreaming about was music and the arts, and that's all I was thinking about. But my mum said, "No, we're not sending Ryan to a special needs school. Ryan's intelligent and he's just really creative." And so I think Mum just wanted to find something for me to keep me occupied. And so there was a woman down the road who taught piano, and her name was Melody. So it's just kind of ironic. And so like every Wednesday we went over for half an hour, and I started to learn the piano. And I don't think I was particularly really interested, because it was a lot of hard work. Like, as you know, like when you start an instrument, it's like the inspiration wears off pretty quick. But I had a mum who just forced me to keep going. And I remember wanting to give up once, and she literally said to me, "No, you're not allowed. Like, go back upstairs and practice." And now I owe my whole life to my mum making that decision, really. But yeah, apart from that, it was like listening to Hillsong, like growing up, just being like knowing every lyric, every Darlene Check ad lib. I still know like every single one, every nuance I can copy and do. Yeah. So I think it was a mixture of all of those things that kind of got me into music. Yeah, and then playing worship and playing every week at church. And at Audacious and conferences and things, just week after week after week, and I was lost by that point.
And how would you describe like the difference between obviously the inspiration of music, but then there must have been a time in your life when you were like, no, I know I'm called by God to actually lead worship, to write songs. How would you like explain sort of that transition?
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I feel like a lot of people have like their gifting, and it's something they're really good at, but often people don't know what to do with it. Even if people have trained at uni and become really good at their craft, everyone comes to answer the question at some point, like, what do I do with this talent that I've got? And like, you can take it so many different ways, not always have guarantees. I think for me, like, church was always very close to my heart, and I'm probably an anomaly in that I'm a pastor's son and never really wanted to walk away in any sense, or never really had an issue with church. Church has always been one of my first loves.
Yeah.
And I think coming from parents who gave everything up to move to the other side of the world, and unfortunately Mum got me a passport, and she's regretting that now, because now I live here. But I think having parents who were so dedicated to building the house rubbed off on me very young and became my own. So I don't think there was never really a desire for me to do anything other than God wanted me to do, whatever that meant. I think that was always a very solid foundation for me. But it didn't become clear until a lot later that worship ministry was what I wanted to do, like sort of to really say, I want to do worship ministry. This is everything for me. And I think that came, I think that I was playing piano on the worship team since I was 14, and had a really good teacher. And it was a series of people leaving that. So like my piano teacher left to go start another church in Leeds. And you know all the people I'm talking about. And then I started playing at church every week. And then when I was 16, the worship pastor moved on. And from that week onwards, I was pushed forward and said, okay, you need to start leading worship now. And I was 16 at the time, and they were like, okay, well, here's a team for you to lead as well. It's crazy when I think back.
Yeah.
I think I found like quite early on, it was quite natural for me to lead worship, because I think being a very sensitive natured person, everything just came into focus when I led. The sensitive to the spirit, being able to read emotions and atmospheres, and sort of respond to that musically on the spot felt very natural. So I think after that, I was like, it just took a hold of me. I can't really say the call of God has to consume you. It has to take hold of your heart, and that can mean different things for everybody. Like for some people, I think everyone should serve in church in some capacity. But if someone was to say, "Yeah, worship ministry is my number one thing," you might be grieving the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit might be saying to you, "No, I want you doing this. I want you doing something else." Of course, like serve on your worship team. But for me, like I felt like I need to make this a main thing for my life. And I reckon that came in my teens. I'm probably between 14 to 17 at some point.
Yeah.
So
it is really interesting. Like I know that for me, that time, for definitely age 14.
Yeah.
Or maybe 13, 14 for me. But those sort of years are, I mean, now I think it almost feels like years go by so quickly, but that year of being, I think it was 97. 96.
How old are you then?
Like for me, so yeah, I was 14 in 97. So I'm pretty sure 96 and 97, those were the years where I know that God just had me, and I was just like, everything I went to and every experience I had was just sort of more and more consolidating the fact that this is what I want you to do. It was like, you know, I think I saw Delirious. I found their touring schedule of 97, and I think I saw them like 7 times or something in 1 year, which is like a little crazy now. You think you don't go and like see one artist that many times, you know. But I know that just so many things happened around that age of 14, which was just like so many inspirational things, and also probably starting to understand I was hearing God for the first time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And how amazing is that? Because you're playing for Martin now. Yeah,
so well, I have been playing. I have done some production, and now I'm doing front of house. But anyway, it's all a journey.
Working with the legends and working with the guy who inspired you so much, incredible. Yeah,
and that is a funny story in itself. And we tried to. Martin was the first person I wanted to do this interview with, and we had so many technical problems. But like we did it on Instagram Live, and Instagram just that day was having all sorts of problems, and it just kept shutting down. But I will end up doing an interview with him at some point in the next few weeks, hopefully.
Yes.
But it is really interesting to see how I'm now of an age where I can say, oh, when I look back. But yeah, when I look back, how many things were so inspirational at that time, that age. You know, it's really important that we look after the kids who are 13, 14, because that's such a formative period of time. Yes. And I think sometimes we're just like, oh, let them do, you know, be in youth, they'll be fine. But but we should actually be looking out for those kids, because like I remember you, and you would have been a bit older than that, I think, when I met you. Maybe I don't know, maybe not. But
I don't think so.
So maybe, but you would, you know, you quite clearly had all of the ingredients. Do you know what I mean? You were a kid, but there was no reason why you couldn't be on stage at the conference, because you may have been young, and you may have been inexperienced, but you definitely were sensitive to the Spirit. You definitely had the disciplines in your playing, and do you know what I mean? And it's like, we should be encouraging the people who are like that, because if we don't, then like you say, the tendency is those guys go looking for something else somewhere else, and then you don't see them anymore.
100%. I'm so passionate about it. Like me teaching some guys that age in church now, I'm just like so excited, because I'm like seeing how it's passed down to me, and now I'm passing it down, and watching these guys play it the first time for youth. I'm just like, this is epic. I'm like, hopefully one day they'll teach someone, and it's become this little lineage.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is family. I think that's what I've learned more than anything is and even doing these interviews, like you hear people's stories and you realize, there was someone, like you talk about, you had a really good teacher, like everyone has not the same story, but they have a story where it's like, oh yeah, if it wasn't for this person who encouraged me when I was young, and we need to realize now that how important it is to encourage those who are starting out. I'm really bad, I think, at teaching because I'm really impatient. And so, and so I can't handle it. I'm like, play this, and then they don't. And I'm like, come on, just play it. But you have to actually realize that the importance of those moments.
I'm like a horrible person.
Yeah. but it could mean such an amazing thing for their future if we have the patience and we have the time and to give someone that encouragement. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Are you a bad practicer then because you just get frustrated with yourself so early on, or are you just so talented that you don't practice much?
I don't practice. Yeah.
I haven't practiced for a bit, but I feel convicted during this time. I'm like, I should probably get better.
yes. I probably should work at that. No, I'm not particularly. I never have been disciplined. I think I just play by ear and that's it. But there are things I know I learned when I was young, which I still do. It's like little patterns which I was taught by a good teacher, and so thankfully I have a few of those. Yeah, of those patterns. But so I'm trying to think how. Like, this is great. So you've just started a worship project of your own. So you've spent many years, obviously your parents' church, C3 in Sydney. You're a church guy, and you're through and through. You just love church and you serve church, and you've done that for years and years and years.
Yeah.
What has caused you to now start? I'm not saying like this is the first thing you've ever released or whatever, but you are quite clearly like, right, this is who I am, Ryan Gilpin and Co. I'm going to release a record. Tell us a bit about that process and journey.
Yeah, that's it's a good question. I think over the last few years I've been involved writing for C3, which has been great, and I've learned heaps as well. Since being here and writing with different people, I'm writing with a style as well, which has been probably a little bit dissimilar to my natural style, and it's really good for you because it kind of sharpens you and it makes you realize who you are, and it makes you realize who you're not, and helps you get better. But probably in 2018. All I can sense was there was just I just had to do something. I just had to. I can't describe it any other way. Like it was like a project was just in my spirit or heart or however you'd like to call it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to look back in 5 years' time and go, why didn't I do something about that? And I'm a creative, but also I'm quite driven. So I'm a bit of an achiever. I like to. Have you done the Enneagrams thing? Like, okay, well, people don't know what that is. But I'm a 4-wing 3, which means that I'm like a creative, but then an achiever as well. So I think I was like, I really want to do something. And I was speaking to a few people about it, and they said, oh, if you're going to do it, like, they were like, if you're going to do it, you need to do something like get a cool place and do it live. Like, you might as well go all out, because they were like, you're at your best when you're in that situation. You're at your best. And so I kind of took their advice and thought, okay, I'm going to embark in this in this project. And looking back, it was a crazy thing to do, because I booked this studio in the Sydney city centre, and I had no songs. Like, this was like January 2019. I had no songs, and I'd already booked the recording day, which was in August. Wow. But I think there was a sense in me that I'd been through a lot over the last few years. And so there was a sense in me that the songs were in me, because there was a testimony that was there. And I think because I felt like there was a testimony there was some depth in the Lord that I didn't have before. I was like, these songs are going to come fairly easy. I just had a knowing and a sense. So I wasn't worried about the songs. Yeah. And it was like, the songs are there somewhere, so I'll be okay. Yeah. Which kind of taught me something in its own right. I was kind of like, the songs I want them to always come from something that is in me. And there's always something in us, like always. But often we're kind of like trying to fit a mold of, this is what should be in me right now. And then we try and write a song out of that, but it's not in you right now. And so you end up like writing something that's just a little bit shallow in its kind of spiritual depth. But if you write from where you're actually at, then I think it's a landing place for the anointing. Yeah. Like when we write out of the brokenness, and of course apply faith, it's like the Holy Spirit is just a magnet for the Holy Spirit. And so I reckon I was in a good place to write stuff that God could land on, because I'd been through a whole lot of crap that I reckon God could actually use and speak to people through. So that was the first thing. The second thing was in deciding to do the project, for it to be sort of really me, it needed to include lots of other people, because for some reason I get a lot, and this is not like trying to be humble or anything like that, but I get a lot more excited about like releasing other people than I do like my project. It just like, honestly, it makes my heart sing. It makes me so excited. It puts a huge smile on my face. The idea of being able to do an album that like really features someone else on every track. I was like, that's cool. I want to be a releaser of people. Like, that's who I am by nature. And so I thought, this is not going to feel very me if I call it, if the artist's name is Ryan Gilpin. And so I called it Ryan Gilpin and Co. And got like lots of worship leaders that I know from C3 here to sing on it. And we did rehearsals, and I got to write with Mia Fields for a few songs as well, and which was just the most beautiful thing for her to do, and learn heaps through that as well. Heaps is an Australian word, by the way. They don't use it too much in the UK, but it's like heaps. That's that. And yeah, so we recorded it in August 2019. Filmed it. It's very expensive, but worth it. I felt like I'd done what I needed to do, and that felt good. Yeah. Amazing.
That's really cool. That's and it's a very different well, for a start, the whole thing, like you say, of being collaborative is very unique, but also that way of doing it and doing it live, that's very, very honest and you know, bearing your soul both in the songs but also in the playing and performance of it, you know. So you know, well done to you for trying something different. You know, I think it's really great.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, awful lot of hard work.
So do you think, talking of the collaboration aspect and the sort of wanting to release other people, which I think is a really interesting point, how much of that, talking as only child to only child?
I remember now. Malcolm Hill, and I can't remember remember your mum's name.
Pippa.
Pippa, that's it.
Pippa's my mum. There you go. Shout out. She'll be watching because she's just got Instagram. But do you think you found the fact of being an only child, has that actually propelled you into wanting to work more in a team?
Oh my goodness.
Or is it completely unrelated? Do you think it's just down to personality?
That's a really, really cool question. Matt's going, yes. I think, has it made me want to work with people? It's probably made me want to be around people more, because I've coming from a very small family, and obviously as well, like not just a small family, but when we moved to the UK, we didn't have any extended family around.
Yeah,
and so for sure, like I think that comes into more friendship. Like I really value friendship and value friends that are like family. That's a really big value for me. But I think the only child thing for me probably made me more a bit of a lone ranger, in a sense that I'm kind of like maybe a bit of a leader in a sense, probably. I've never really thought about it this way. But yeah, there was a sense of there's no competition. I think that's the main thing. Like there wasn't a competition in my family for the attention or for like what I could do. I could kind of do what I wanted to do. I wasn't having to wrestle someone or like, you know. So to be honest, I think that would probably be the main thing that came into it. Like just a bit of a confidence and a sense of I don't need to kind of compete. I can just kind of do this.
Yeah.
That probably came from being an only child. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never really thought about that, but yeah, I do think I've only grown into the collaboration thing, I think, as I've got older. I generally I joke about, you know, pastoral stuff because I joke and say I don't like people, but but it is a joke because I do like people. It's just I think I'm better with smaller groups of people. So I love a band, like 5 people. That sort of amount of people is just great for me. But like 50 people is like can be a bit too much sometimes.
Oh, horrible! No, I hate that.
I mean, so but I think that a lot of that is from being an only child. It's like, but you do have to be but you do have to be careful that obviously generally you just got to do what you want because there was no one to argue with.
Right.
So maybe, how much of that does it develop leadership, or is it just, well, I am the leader because people should just do what I want.
Yeah, it's like a confidence. I think it is a confidence. But I agree with you with the people thing. Like, I love being around people, but they have to be the right people.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is good.
But you'll find that funny. But all the band that I had involved in this, like I knew them all like pretty well. So it was just like it was best to do. I loved doing it with them so much.
Yeah.
And it's like the musical equivalent of being in the trenches together, as is being on a worship team or building church. Like you're in the trenches with your fellow man or woman, and you're building something together, and there's a closeness that comes with that. Like I think I made like the guy that produced my record. I became like great friends after throughout doing this. So I know, like one person said to me, like it's not always true, but after you've released a record, like obviously the music is always going to be available to people, but the thing that really lasts is the relationships that you built in the process.
Yeah.
You know, and music has a way of really, really building that. And also we're all probably a little bit more relationally wired than your average folk because we're creative. So we do like our own space, but also we have a kind of an empathy and a real desire for meaningful connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I that's what I mean. I do love music does that anyway. music brings people together anyway, and that's what's so powerful. Like, I've found it interesting in this sort of lockdown time that obviously certain industries carry on, but the thing, that you just can't stop is you can't stop creativity.
Right.
And even though people, have been forced to change the way they're maybe doing their everyday life, and a lot of things like sport over here anyway has just been completely cancelled.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, well, what do all those people who all they ever talk about is Man United?
Right.
Like, what do they do now? Because
like Glyn, like Pastor Glyn.
Pastor Glyn, yeah, well, Man City for Pastor Glyn. But they've got nothing to talk about because nothing has happened for weeks. You know what I mean? So they have to make up things to talk about. But the interesting thing is that you can't, like, everyone immediately turns to, like, I saw a quote and I can't get it right, but it was like, in a time of crisis, everyone turns to the arts. And it's funny because
crisis is the cradle of innovation.
Oh, that's a good one. Tweet that. But like, you do, everyone's sat at home watching their Netflix box sets. So like straight away we're on to filmmakers and box sets and we're discovering new music. But I think for creatives in particular, there's almost like a concentrated version of that, because we have like you've just described, that whole like being in the trenches thing. I think for me, you get, when you've been on tour, and you're in a small van with 5 or 6 people, you develop a different sort of bond with people, and that has all been brought about because of creativity. And so you have this like peculiar type of friendship, which is a very, very unique one to musicians, I think, and creatives, where it's really hard to explain that to other people. Maybe they get a little bit of that in their workplace or college or whatever, but I think we creatives, there's a real, I don't know, like a camaraderie but it comes from working on a project together. It's not just like, oh, we just chat about music. It comes from having created something together. It's a real different thing. And I wonder, I don't know what you think, but I find that now I hardly ever write songs on my own anymore. I might start a song on my own, but I know that there's so much value in writing with other people. And I think you find something when you're writing with someone else, that you discover stuff which like would never have come about if you hadn't have been in that room or been on that video call with the other person. Is like you come up with something which is so fresh, and you think, wow, that must have just come from God, because neither you or I would have come up with that on our own. And I don't know if you find that sort of thing, but you mentioned writing with Mia Fields, but did you write any of those songs yourself, or did you do a lot of collaboration?
Like collaboration it's been a fairly new thing for me. I've had to kind of work on it as I've got older. I think I realized a few years ago, and it was an attack. It attacked my pride, to be honest. This kind of realization that my songs are a lot better when someone else gets to change them.
Yeah.
And just tweak and just tailor and dot the I's and cross the T's and tell me where the pace is slowing down a little bit too much, or where I'm playing it too safe, or where I need to chop a bar, or just the detailing that other people can do on your work is really, it's become really, really valuable to me. The cool thing is, though, the more people you write with, they teach you so much, and then you end up doing that detailing yourself next time that you write. So you end up getting better. So really, it's like a tool of being able to enhance your own writing. With the songs on the album, like every one of them one of the songs started with me, besides one of them. I didn't even sing one of the tracks, so that one didn't start with me. I added to something else, but all the other tracks started with me, and then I like presented to someone. Oh, I've got this melody for a verse, this melody for a chorus. I'm a melody guy. Like I get melody and I get like key statements that are pretty cool, but then all the in between, I don't enjoy that. So I often like getting help with that. I could do it myself. It's going to take me a lot longer. There was one of the songs that I pretty much wrote by myself. It was called "Winter Is Over," and that song is it's based on Song of Songs, saying, see the winter is over, see the winter is past, that the rains have gone. It's a Song of Solomon, and that was just depicting a whole season for me and a whole testimony for me. So that just wrote itself. That was so easy. And I wrote most of that, and it's delightful when that happens. But I tell people when I teach songwriting, I say, don't be a songwriter. I said, just like take the pressure off yourself being a songwriter and just be a moments capturer. Just capture moments. Like when you're singing to the Lord and you just like have one antenna up that's singing straight to God, and then the other antenna up that's listening. Like just and then just capture the moment, and then when you want to write a song for something, stitch the moments together, find the best moments that are like the verse but best moments that are like the chorus, and stitch them together and see which melodies really work with one another, and see if they're a good match, if they're made of the same. And it's not really the necessarily the harmonic qualities of it. It's like the spiritual qualities of like two fabrics. Like, do they kind of go together? Are they of the same like DNA? Like both the things that you wrote. And often you'll find things that just go together really well. And you're like, okay, great. I've got a great melody now that I recorded in 2016, and now I have a great melody for a chorus I wrote in 2020. And then you've got something for a song. For me, I find that's a lot less pressure than having to write whole songs.
Definitely.
And then for me, that's when I bring someone else in on the journey. Yeah, rather than sort of starting from scratch. Although I have done that. Yeah. What's it like for you? What do you do?
I actually I don't write many songs, which people probably are surprised at, but I'm more of a, I'll have one idea and I'll just mull that over for ages. And it's like refining that idea. So, but now what I do is having learned to be like open with the idea and give it to someone else, is I have a few people that I will, like if I get a sense that, this feels like a church song, then I'll give it to the main guys from the worship team and say, what do you think of this? And something better always comes out. If it's a bit of a different sort of song, then I have like a certain go-to people who are great writers who I know. So like if I'm writing a more of a pop song, then there's a guy who I generally will go to because I know he'll just have an idea for the hook, which will be the thing, which makes it all work, you know. So, but I'm similar in the sense of I'm always like rhythm and melody come first, and lyrics come later. I might have a sense of what I want this song to be about, but I generally think personally that people who write lyrics first, you don't get the most memorable songs, because people don't like wander down the street reciting lyrics from songs, do they? They wander down the street they're whistling the tune, aren't they? So the most important thing is the tune, the melody, and then for me, I love like working out the harmony or interesting chord sequences that go with that or whatever. Everybody I've interviewed pretty much so far, I think, was a drummer, apart from Ellie. Ellie wasn't a drummer, but
I wasn't. Oh no,
you weren't a drummer. Oh, you did some percussion though. So yeah, but I'm really I have to, like, the rhythm and the drum part has to be right for me. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm into this. Like I'm getting this
like
vibe.
all I think about when I write is what the drums are doing. Like, I can't. It excites me so much. I'm like, we're going to go into the second verse, and then they're going to go into the floor tom.
Yeah, and exactly. The drums is definitely the most fun instrument.
It so is, yeah.
And
I wish I was a drummer. I really do. It's the best instrument in the band.
Yeah, it is. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know, but like, if you gave me a song, I feel like I would be able to tell you which line was the bit which was inspired. That was the first bit which you got. Because I think normally those things are inspired. They are like a wow moment. They're something which is like, you've heard something of heaven. And I'm not even talking about, worship songs per se. I'm more like, you watch an interview with Chris Martin, and he talks in the same way. Like you hear something which is not your own thought. It's like something out there. You discover it, and that thing is normally, it pops out to you from the page or from the demo to me, and then the rest of it is our work to try and make it into a finished thing. That's what I think, and that's why I always try and go into a writing session with an idea. I don't want to go in with just, I'm not really an ideas person. So like some people will be like they're just constant ideas, like, oh, how about this? Oh, how about this? Oh, how about this? Whereas I'm more like, I'll have my little idea and I'll bring it, you know what I mean? But I kind of don't, it's sometimes useful to write with those kind of people, like Aaron, who was the first guy I interviewed, wrote with him, and he's just like ideas. So it's like, it's actually really useful. And one of the things he encouraged us to do actually was, there's trying to remember who it is now, but there's like an American songwriting coach, and she on her website, she does like a thing, you can find out what type of songwriter you are, and there's like 7. So when I did it, and it said that I'm an arranger, and then there's other people who are like they're just about melody, or other people are about content, so it's kind of like a personality thing, but it's about songwriting personalities. So it actually makes sense. So we did it with our like core worship team, and we were all different, and so we were like, oh well, this is why it works when we write together, because we've got like a producer, an arranger, someone who's about lyrics, and someone who's about melody, sort of thing. And so it kind of, it makes sense if you write together with people who have different qualities, rather than, if 2 ideas people were together, they'd probably just go mad at each other. But you need that person to start it off, and then you need the sort of someone who's about the detail of the lyrics to make that all good, and you need someone who's good at arranging to sort of make the journey right, But anyway, I'm learning more and more about it.
I feel like there's a difference between. I feel like you are an ideas person, but you're not you're a thinker though. So you're a planner. You're a strategist.
Right? Yeah, maybe.
And so you're like a prior ideas person, and there's people who are instant ideas person.
Yeah.
And they're both like equally as valid. Yeah. Like I the pressure of having to come up with an instant idea is overwhelming for me. But I'm very happy to work with someone who is, and try and adapt what they've done. But I would go into a session, I would pray in the Holy Spirit. I'd ask the Holy Spirit, what is the right idea to take into this session?
Oh, good, right.
And I'd come in with maybe like 3 melodies or 3 things that I've got. Unless you ran out. Like I did a whole week of writing last year, and by the end of the week, I'd only had 1 idea left. But yeah, I think there's just the the personality thing comes into it. Like I don't like being on the spot. I prefer to be able to prepare. A lot of musicians are like that, I think.
Sorry, just getting messages from my wife. So just to
is she okay?
Just to finish off, one very final thing is what one piece of advice, if you bumped into yourself in the street, but it was your 14-year-old self, like we talked about earlier, what one piece of advice now would you want to give to yourself back then?
I would have told myself that the things about me that people would have said to me were my greatest weaknesses, God was calling my greatest strengths.
Very good.
And in particular, I would have been telling myself that being a more sensitive natured individual was nothing weak about me. It was actually a strength. And it was nothing even feminine that the world would say it was. It was actually something that God had put in my hand as a man and that he wanted me to use to build his kingdom. Boom. That's what I would have said to myself.
That is great.
I would have said, take off the armor that other people are going to try and put on you, and trust that your 5 smooth stones is exactly what God has given you, and trust that it's enough and it's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Very good. I think you could write a book about that, mate.
I probably will one day.
5 smooth stones.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest, Ryan Gilpin. If you want to watch any more of these interviews, then you can go to audaciousworship.com, or you can follow our Instagram, which is also Audacious Worship. Thanks for watching.